everybody, and welcome to The Courageous Chick. I'm Shakia Mayer, and in this video, we're going to talk about the documentary on Netflix called She Did That. Now, I wanted to talk about this documentary because of its subject matter, and there were several themes that stuck out to me, and I wanted to share them with you all because I think it can be beneficial for everybody who's listening. Now, just in case you aren't aware of what this documentary is about, it's about Black women entrepreneurs, Black women excelling in their businesses. And so with that said, let's jump into the first key theme, which is representation. So this documentary alone is all about representation, right? It's showing and it's highlighting Black women as entrepreneurs, which is a way that we're not often depicted, or where it's not talked about as much as we would want it to be talked about. And it shows for those of us who are watching and those of us who aspire to have some of the success as the women in this documentary, it shows us that it's possible. And that's what a lot of these women talked about. They said that for many of them, they didn't have somebody in their immediate circle, or they didn't have somebody that they could look up to that looked like them, that was doing what they were doing or wanted to do. And so they wanted to show that if they could do it, other people who look like them, other young girls, that they can do it as well, right? And so, which I think is a pretty cool message, because it's about empowerment, it's about uplifting people, and it's about giving back. Even when you don't realize you're giving back, you are. Quick story. There's somebody who I met years ago. I don't, know this person all that well. We had a few conversations together. We don't even live in the same state, but we are friends on social media. And I will see some of her posts, and most of the time I'm always like liking them and things like that, because what she's doing is such an inspiration to me. She's not even in the same like field as I'm in, but just watching the moves that she makes and the businesses that she's creating and going after her dreams is so inspiring. And so you never know who's watching. Just because you might not be getting the amount of views or likes on your posts, or links to your blog, clicks on your blog, just because you might not see those immediate returns, it doesn't mean that your work isn't making an impact. So I want you to keep that in mind for all of my influencers and leaders that are watching. It does not mean that you aren't making an impact to somebody. Representation matters. You being you and doing what you are doing, it matters, trust me. Another theme, which is pretty obvious, which is to do what you enjoy. These women talked about creating their businesses because it was a need they saw and they wanted to meet that need, but also because it was something they felt that they either needed for themselves in their personal lives, and it was something that they enjoyed doing, having, eating, etc. And so it's taking what you enjoy and turning it into a business, not just focused on how can I make money, but let's take a step back and let's go back to the days where people had hobbies. What is it that you enjoy doing? Do it, and you never know, you maybe can make a business out of it. Another thing that stuck out to me, and I think is so important, I talk about it in a lot of videos, is self-care. And now I know self-care has become this buzzword, and oftentimes on social media, on Instagram, we'll see these beautiful photos of people and these wonderful yoga poses, and they have this quote and they're out in nature, hashtag self-care. Or we see people getting massages or manicures, hashtag self-care. But sometimes self-care is like raw and gritty. Sometimes self-care, because it's part of your like healing and part of your journey, sometimes self-care ain't that pretty, right? It's not like this perfect picture. Sometimes it means going to therapy and getting some things out that maybe you've never told anybody. Sometimes it means talking with a coach or a mentor. Sometimes it means digging a little deeper. Sometimes it means allowing yourself to be in solitude, right? Spend a day with yourself. Don't, spend a day with yourself, unplugging from your devices, unplugging from social media. Sometimes self-care, like I said, it's not the easiest thing to do, but it's necessary. One of the women in the video discussed how for her self-care had a lot to do with going to therapy, and how therapy was so beneficial for her. And I love hearing things like that, because I know that therapy isn't um it's not the sexiest topic to talk about, and especially in the Black community, we are there isn't a rich history of trusting, the discipline, and so it was just so awesome to hear how this Black woman is speaking openly about going to therapy and enjoying it. Now, it might not be fun when I say enjoy it, but getting something from it. And another woman talked about, as she's creating and building her business, she asked her family and her friends, okay, what can I do? What do you think I'm missing? What do you think I could be doing to help me? And because she said she had been working on personal development, and she's like, is there anything that I'm missing? And everybody told her, like, yo, you need to take a step back. You need to start taking better care of yourself. You need to give yourself a break. And that's part of self-care. Taking that inventory, assessing your life, assessing what's going on, knowing when you can take a step back so that you can find whatever type of balance you need for your life. And balance isn't always going to mean it looks like this and it's just even and it's perfect. No, balance is going to look different for everybody. And I like to think of it as somewhere in the middle path, not necessarily just like this 50-50 split, because for many of us, that's impossible. We're involved in so many things that we have to figure out what's the right balance for us. And along with taking a step back and balance and self-care is remembering that you don't have to be Superwoman. For many of us, we get caught up in this Superwoman complex where we have to be everything to everybody, and we always have to be on. We always have to do. We always have to say yes. We always have to take on the struggles because we can. Just because you can doesn't mean you need to, right? And so it's about knowing how to step back, knowing when to say yes, knowing how to say no, and being okay with it. And so I'm so happy that this was brought up too, because as people build their businesses, they're often in this go, go, go grind mentality, and they forget that they don't have to do every single thing. It might feel that way, but that's why you get a tribe. That's why you get a support system going. That's why you get in the Courageous Chick Change Maker Circle, so that you are part of a sisterhood and that you can lean on somebody and you can tell them what's going on. You can vent, all that stuff, right? Because when you feel that you are alone and when you feel that you have to do everything yourself, it starts to now feel like a burden. So starting a business and living out your dream should be awesome. That should be fun. Yes, it's going to come with its challenges. We don't want it to feel like a burden, because then guess what? Then we stop doing it. So remember, as you are building your business, as you are scaling your business, remember to take a step back and remember that you don't have to be Superwoman. In the documentary, they talked about removing the cape, remove the cape. I did a whole talk about Superwoman complex at a woman's conference, actually, because it's something that I just think it's an important conversation, and perhaps I'll revisit it and do another video about it. But that it's such an important conversation to have, and so it's something I want you to remember. Another theme was having the guts, and I believe one of the women in the documentary said this, which is have the guts to do it. It's not going to be easy. For many of us, there's not going to be this linear path that's laid out and says, okay, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, and boom, now you're successful. It often doesn't look like that. They talked about their journeys. They talked about the roller coaster of emotions. The founder of Carol's Daughter said, the question was, were there times that you wanted to give up? And she said, absolutely, right? She's been doing this for over 20 years. She said, absolutely. but she didn't. And I think that's what's important. That's what's important to take away. Are there times you want to give up in your life because things aren't going the way you want them to? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean to give up. It doesn't mean to quit, because then you won't ever get what it is that you're seeking. You won't be able to reap the rewards of the hard work you're putting in when you give up, when you throw in the towel. If it's something you feel called to do, if it's something you are excited about doing, if it's something you love, then you learn how to be resilient. So you might feel like giving up sometimes, but it doesn't mean that you have to. I want you to remember that. And sometimes people feel guilty for feeling as if they want to give up, but it's natural. You're human. There's only but so much you can take. And in those moments, make sure again that you have a solid support system. Make sure you have a tribe, and make sure that you are practicing self-care, because that's going to help you to recenter. That's going to help you to regroup. That's going to help you to get grounded and now get back on your path. And so I gave you these little bullet points. I realized I didn't tell you the overall themes, at least not in the way that I have them written down. And so let's just go back over them really quickly. We want to remember that representation matters. We want to remember to practice self-care. We want to remember that community is important, and resiliency is important, because that's what's going to help you to actually achieve your goals. That's what's going to help you to take an idea and turn it into what it is that you want, turn it into your reality. So you have to be resilient. You have to have a community. You have to practice self-care. I'm telling you what you have to do, even though I usually say don't say shoulds, but in this case, if you want the success that you want, these are some of the things that you're likely going to have in your life. And when you break a barrier, when you achieve something, you now become a figure that somebody can look up to, and that part is so cool. So remember that it goes beyond you. Once you were able to do something, it impacts your family and it impacts your community. And this is something they talked about in the documentary, and this is something that I've discussed in videos as well, which is one of the reasons it's so important for us to go after our dreams and to achieve them and to manifest the lives that we want, is because we don't only benefit from them, but the people around us can benefit from them as well. Whether it's people in our community or families, what have you, they can benefit from our dreams, and not in a way where it's like they're leeching off of you. That's a different conversation. But in a way where you're now able to give, you're now able to pour into somebody, you're now able to help them in a way that maybe somebody was able to help you or somebody wasn't able to help you. You're able to help them because now they can learn from you. And I know I keep going back to this, but it's so important. It really is. So if you did not watch the documentary, She Did That, make sure you watch it, because there were moments where I teared up, and there were moments where I resonated with what was being said. And so I know that there's something that you are going to be able to take away from it. I want you to remember that as you continue to build your businesses or become leaders in your communities or leaders at your job, I want you to, one, think about and reflect on whether or not this is actually what you want. Because if it's not, then that's a conversation that you have to have with yourself, or with a coach, a mentor, a therapist. And that's also part of self-care. If it is something that you want to do, I want you to remember that it's not a straight path, and that is absolutely okay, as long as you are going after your dreams. That was the overall theme of, this documentary, which is go after your dreams. Don't settle. Don't settle. When you do, you become mediocre. And that's not a life that we want to live. Do not settle. Go after what it is you want, because you can have it. You can I honestly believe that you can manifest the life that you want, whether it's positive emotions, more traveling experiences, better relationships, better jobs, higher paying jobs, build a business, become whatever it is, you can have it. Don't settle. Do not settle. And there are gonna be hiccups along the way. They talked about that in the documentary, that there were hiccups. Somebody started a business. One of the women, you know, she started her candle business while she was unemployed. And that's a whole video that I'm probably going to do on how to use some of these situations that we think is so horrible, but how to use them to our advantage. It is possible. I can talk about this all day, but I won't. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me. Again, watch the documentary. She did that because I want you to do that, whatever that is for you. If anything in this video resonated with you, be sure to leave me a comment and let me know. Let's have a discussion. Let's get some dialogue going. As always, I want you to have a courageous day, and I will talk to you all real soon. Bye.